afternoon, every Board of County Commissioners meeting for June 27th. This afternoon, we have two public hearing items, both quasi-judicial. If I could get a motion to accept proofs of publication.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I would like to go ahead and read our order of process for this afternoon's public hearings. Our staff is going to present each item for consideration with a recommendation, and then the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff when the presentations have finished. The applicant will then have an opportunity to make a presentation, and the board will have a chance to ask questions of the presenter once they are finished. Members of the public interested in speaking either for or against a project, you have two forms you can choose from. There's a yellow form out in the lobby or a green form. The yellow form is if you would like to speak to the board. This is if you're a member of the public, not an applicant. And if you just want the comments, some written comments for the board to read, you can fill out the green form, and that will be passed along the dais for us. Speakers should state their name and address clearly for the record and whether they are for or against the item. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak unless they are the official spokesperson for an HOA or a legally organized group. Then you'll be given 6 minutes if you are speaking in lieu of the other members of your group. If a board member has questions regarding the speaker's comments, an opportunity will be given once the speaker's time has expired. In accordance with the operating policies and procedures of Seminole County Board of County Commissioners, Section 2.175, Public Participation Before the Board, speakers shall limit their comments to the subject being considered by the board. All comments shall avoid personal attacks, abusive language, and redundancy. Disrespectful, rude, irrelevant, or slanderous remarks or disruptive behavior may subject the individual to removal from the board chambers, and the chairman may curtail repetitious comments. The clerk's office is required to retain any documents, photographs, drawings, etc. that are presented to the Board of County Commissioners. So if you show it to us, be prepared to leave a copy of it here with the clerk. Once all speakers have been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal if necessary. Then I will close the public hearing and put the matter in the hands of the commission. Following a motion and a second, there will be board discussion and a vote, and commissioners who do not cast objecting votes will be considered to have voted in support of the motion. While the board welcomes comments from all persons with an interest in these proceedings this afternoon, Florida law requires that the board's decision in a quasi-judicial action be supported by competent substantial evidence presented to the board during the hearing on the application. Competent substantial evidence is such evidence as a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support a conclusion. There must be a factual basis in the record to support opinion testimony from both expert and non-expert witnesses. Persons presenting testimony may rely on factual information that they present, that is presented by a county staff member, that the applicant presents, or on factual information included in the county staff report to support their testimony. All persons who present written materials to the board for consideration must ensure that a copy of such materials are provided to the clerk for inclusion in the board's record of proceedings and its official minutes. Have any commissioners received any oral or written communications regarding the quasi-judicial items? If so, please disclose the substance of the communication and identify the person making the communication. We'll start here with Commissioner Herr. We'll just go on down the aisle.
Yes, on both issues, emails, phone calls, and it has been submitted electronically.
I received that.
All right.
Meeting on the allure with the development team, and I submitted electronically.
Okay. I also met with the team from Allure and have submitted that electronically as well. All right. Our first item is being presented by Liz Parkhurst. It is a resolution to declare the existence of a public nuisance at 2059 Sipes Avenue. And you are not Liz Parkhurst, so forgive me. Please introduce yourself.
Ruth Goldstein, for the record, Building Division. Item number 34 is a request for an order to be imposed declaring the unoccupied structures located at 2059 Sipes Avenue, Sanford, a public nuisance and requiring corrective action to be taken by the record property owners. On May 9th, 2023, the board issued a notice of determination of public nuisance for the unoccupied structures. This notice ordered that the structures be repaired or rebuilt in compliance with the Florida Building Code or be abated through demolition. To date, no corrective action has been taken, and there continues to be a steady decline in the condition of the property. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide the record property owners the opportunity to appear before the board to state why the structures do not create a public nuisance and why the property should not be abated. Pursuant to Chapter 168 Seminole County Code, notice of this hearing was received by the record property owners. Staff recommends that the board issue an order declaring the unoccupied structures a public nuisance and require corrective action to be taken by July 27th, 2023. In the event the record property owners do not take corrective action by July 27th, 2023, it is further recommended that the board direct staff to abate the public nuisance. The acting building official, Jeff Johnson, is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions for staff at this time? Is the property owner here?
The property owner is not here, but I believe the son of the property owner is here.
So a representative of the
Yes.
property? All right, do you wish to address the board? All right, if you would, just come down, please, and state your name and address for the record. And then you can share with us anything you'd like the board to know about the situation.
Okay. Courtney Lanier, 145 Adoncia Way, Sanford, Florida. The property was my grandparents' property. They died, my grandma died in 2001. And it wasn't up to my mom and my grandfather, my uncle. Both of them passed. My mom passed within the last 2 years. So I was keeping the property up, keeping it up, life issues, surgeries and stuff like that. It fell apart. And there's no way I went in and tried to get it, boarded up, and I got it boarded up, cleaned the property up. I can't be there 24/7. And with the vagrants, the drug dealers, everything in Midway, it's hard. So I'm not opposed to it being a public nuisance, because at this time I can't afford to get it knocked down and pay it. So if the county would do it and put the lien on us to commissioner her, I just need the cost of that, and I can eventually pay that off and get it taken care of.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Lanier? Commissioner Herr?
So I'd just like to say thank you for being so cooperative and helping to keep the folks in Midway safe. I think that there's an opportunity here for you guys to collaborate and make sure that everybody understands what happens from here and what the next steps are. So I would ask that staff engage with Mr. Lanier. The notifications were actually going to the property, not elsewhere, and so there's probably opportunity there for us to make sure that we're communicating directly with everything that happens in the future. I also think you had a question with regard to the garage.
Yeah, so one thing that I learned about, because the property has been in our family since 1920, and like when we first moved from Georgia. So my uncle was advised that as long as the garage was there, that no road can go through. And by knocking down the garage, would that continue 21st Street all the way through to the back area where I know there is construction happening in that back area?
That's a great question.
It is a really good question. I would direct that to our county attorney or to further work that needs to be done. He's looking as we speak, yes. I'm not putting any pressure on you, Paul, trust me.
I can hear the pages.
Trying to see whether there's right-of-way.
But it's been so long ago, I don't know if it was at that time, word of mouth type of deal, and I don't know, but that's one of the things that my uncle knew for a while about that garage. But I know there has been construction in the back of the house, and the person who built back there put a fence up. So I don't know if they was aware of that, and they just put the fence up because, there's no HOA to really say, hey, can you do it or not? But I know with that garage there, that's been something my uncle had told me for years before he passed, that, no road can go through here as long as the garage is up.
In looking at the property appraiser website report that's on page 662 of the agenda, it does look like 21st Street / Lincoln Avenue is right-of-way to the south of the property. So the fact that the garage is there complicates it. But again, I don't know what right the garage has to be on the property. because it looks like it's right-of-way. We would need to check the title report. I would like to get with Real Estate Management and Public Works to give you a full answer on that.
So I think, Mr. Lanier, what needs to happen is that we need to figure out what the next steps are, and possibly, I'm not sure about this, but possibly clear up some family folklore.
Yeah.
Because typically, the fact that a garage exists on a right-of-way doesn't mean that the right-of-way doesn't exist.
I know, and that was the thing
Yeah,
that
so-
I asked him for.
Right. So we'll get you connected with our team. We'll get an answer to you in writing so you know that, and then we'll plan to continue with the abatement and the lien on the property so that there's no hardship for you right now. And we'll get that property to the point where you don't have to keep running back there to see what's happening.
But then that's the thing about also with the property 2059, the house being a nuisance as well, the garage will create a nuisance because it is a solid structure.
Yep.
And with being a solid structure, people still can go inside there, use crack, do whatever. Because it's a 10 garage and it's been through 7 or 8 hurricanes and has never fallen.
That is amazing.
So
It's probably a family member of yours that built that we need back in the
yeah,
construction
back in the day,
business.
yeah.
Yes.
So he was, matter of fact. But
So I believe it's our intent to tear down all structures on the property. So it would be our intent to remove all structures so that the property the problem is taken care of.
okay, and all I ask is just a contact to talk about the lien and how much it would be if I want to go ahead and just pay it off.
Okay.
So it won't be on any further.
And so Ruth, would that be you? Or could you connect?
We'll
Oh,
take-
I see Rebecca coming back from the back of the room, and so this is Rebecca Hammock, who's in the white jacket right behind you, and she's going to connect you to the right people, and we'll be happy to move forward.
Okay.
And we do appreciate you.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Ms. Beach, is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing then. Any additional questions for staff? No? All right, we will have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt a resolution issuing an order to declare the existence of a public nuisance at 2059 Sipes Avenue, Sanford, and require corrective action by July 27th, 2023.
Second.
Can we
Was there
finish?
anything
Can we
else?
finish the motion first?
There's a little
Yeah.
more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And authorize necessary corrective action by the county in the event the nuisance is not abated by the record owners. Second? Is there
I'll
a
second that.
So, motion by her, second by Delary. Any further discussion, clarifications? Nope. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lanier. Right. Item number 35 is Allure on the Parkway. It's a small-scale future land use map amendment. Doug Robinson is the project manager. It's in Commissioner Hurst District.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Doug Robinson with Development Services. The item is Allure on the Parkway, PD rezone and small-scale future land use amendment. The applicant is requesting a small-scale future land use amendment from plan development to plan development and to rezone from PD plan development to PD plan development in order to increase the approved number of multifamily residential units from 300 to 680. In September of 2016, the PD was previously approved to allow the 300 multifamily units, 40,000 square feet of retail space, 15,000 square feet of restaurant space, 80,000 square feet of Class A office space, and a 200-key hotel. The applicant is now proposing the additional 380 multifamily units in place of the 200-key hotel and the 80,000 square feet of office space. The current PD would continue to allow the 40,000 square feet of retail and the 15,000 square feet of restaurant space. In addition to that, the draft development order is written so that it still allows the applicant the ability to have the hotel and office uses up to their previously approved maximums, provided that there's an equivalent reduction in another proposed use. And that equivalent reduction would be determined by using a traffic conversion matrix, which I believe is in the development order. It should be there in the first page. And that accounts for traffic impacts, but capacity for utilities would still be needed to be figured out as well. The subject property, as I mentioned, it has the future land use designation and plan development. That allows the maximum intensity of non-residential floor area ratio of 1.0. That wouldn't change. That would stay the same as it currently is. As far as utilities go, there's no capacity limitations regarding roadway or water and sewer. The applicant also proposes to dedicate right-of-way with shared access along the northern property boundary in order to serve a new fire station on First Street. That specific area will be determined at the time of the final development plan application. The subject site is required to have a 25% common usable open space, and that will be provided on each individual lot. There are 3 lots in the site. I'm sorry, I'm getting behind on the maps here. I'll zoom to the plan development, master development plan. Does this have a laser pointer? No, it doesn't. The upper right corner of that is kind of the darker shaded gray is Lot 2. That is where the multifamily is proposed, and the lower Lot 3 area, Lot 1 to the west is already developed with 290 multifamily units. They were approved for 300, so I believe they want to use those remaining 10 in addition to new units to bring them up to 680. So as I mentioned, open space would be 25%, and we've asked that they have that percent on each individual lot. Project is required to have landscape buffers, the components of those will be determined at final development plan, but they are set at 10 feet on the northern property boundary, 15 feet on the south, 15 feet in the east, and 10 feet in the west. And those will have canopy trees and continuous shrubs. We did find that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land development code. Staff is recommending that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment and plan development from plan development to plan development, and adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from PD plan development to PD plan development, and approve the associated development order and master development plan for approximately 12.20 acres located on the west side of International Parkway, approximately 1/2 mile north of County Road 46A. That concludes my presentation, Madam Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? We'll call you back up if we have any.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here, and do they wish to make a presentation?
They are here.
All right.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Tom Sullivan with the Gray Robinson Law Firm, 301 East Pine Street. On behalf of the project team, I've got a couple folks here with me, right behind me, actually. Matt Weidman, our client and developer, and John Martin with Kinley Horn, our civil engineering team. So just first wanted to say that we appreciate staff's presentation and their recommendation. We've been working closely with them for a few months now, and feel like we've got a high-quality project that we're bringing to you. We're excited about the opportunity to share it with you and present it to you in kind of our overall vision for what could happen there. So what I'd like to do next is just ask John to kind of give you his thoughts from an engineering perspective, and also from the perspective of having had some history. He was involved with the team that went through the 2016 change. I think that'd be helpful to you, and then we'll ask Matt to just kind of come up and talk with you about what he envisions here, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. So with that said, John, do you want to?
Jonathan Martin with Kinley Horn Associates, the engineer, and I'm at 189 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida. I've had the fortune to actually work on this project for almost 20 years now, and we've seen it go through some evolution. And in the current entitlements, it's been great, but we haven't had a lot of interest. So adding the residential to this adds another quiver into the quill for marketing and pursuits of some kind of ultimate mixed-use project. When you also look at the surrounding corridor and what's happening, we feel that this provides an opportunity for the project to actually move forward this time. So we're excited about it, and there's a lot of interest coming out, and I think Matt will give you more details on that.
Hello, Commissioners. Well, I've had the opportunity to meet all of you and share a little bit about our vision, but to reaffirm, we're really excited about this project. And given the new infrastructure that is coming online to International, this is really going to become the front doorstep to International Parkway and a lot of Lake Mary. So while we have the entitlements, as we've discussed, to put in restaurants and limited service hotel, which we've had a lot of demand, we really want to activate this site to its highest and best use. So by giving us the multifamily, it allows us to invest the capital that we feel will bring this to a highest and best use, which is, our project budget is over $100 million for this project. It'll be a combination of residential and retail. I go to church in Sorrento, and kind of how this has all come about is, in terms of activating and bringing together the mixed uses, is how do we bring something together that families can actually enjoy to come park their car, get a bite to eat, get on the trail, while having a true live, work, play environment. So we put a lot of work into this. We're really excited about it and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
At the moment.
Commissioner Herr?
I do think it would be valuable to just share a little bit more about the vision in terms of the entryway and what it will do with relation to the project that's already there and the parking garage that's already there, et cetera.
Yeah. So given that 417 and 429 are going to be opening in the next few months, this is really going to become a main thoroughfare. And as people are ingressing and egressing off of that roadway coming south, this will be the hard corner of that site. As it relates to the height, the parking garage on the backside, which I understand has become a little bit of a nuisance to some over time, our project would actually completely block that from the road. So we're not abutting any residential. We're right on the commercial corridor. So back on the point of this being, as we look at it, this is like the gem of the necklace of International Parkway. It would just pain us to look at meeting the market in terms of the fast casual, fast food type of restaurants where there's a lot of activity, and really making the capital investment that we think is going to define the entrance to International Parkway. So to make that capital investment, as John has explained, giving us the flexibility to activate it with residential to become a true live, work, play environment gives us the framework to make the capital investment that we feel this site commands.
And a little bit about your business model.
So we are, I actually have my brother Chris that's sitting back here.
Hiding diligently in the audience.
We operate our family business, and we're second generation. My father's been in real estate, insurance development for over 50 years, mostly in the Northeast. We moved here in 1991 and have really seen Orlando flourish into the community it now is. We're an invested stakeholder, not just from a resident standpoint, but also you mentioned our background in terms of other projects. We had a similar situation that we got involved with in downtown Orlando. And if anybody knows, when you get off on South Street going from west to east, there's now a new Marriott AC and Truist office building. The original vision for that site was a limited service hotel. Well, Lincoln Property Company came and said, you know what, let's really take this site, let's densify the site and bring the highest and best use that this site is. When they shared that project vision with us, we elected, along with some of our partners, to invest in that. That project is now the highest and newest project delivered to our downtown Orlando skyline. And we had a lot of resistance early on. People thought, how are you going to build that? You'll never make the numbers work. But given that we're a long-term family-oriented business, we have a much longer horizon in terms of ownership than a lot of the other merchant builders that want to come into a project, create a lot of value, and get out. We have some properties on our portfolio that our father has owned for over 50 years. We've continued to own today. So we really take a long-term approach. We're very invested in this community. And again, with your support, would allow us what we need to bring the highest and best use to that site.
Thank you. I have no further
Any other questions for the applicant?
No, moment.
Could you talk to me about your community meetings and interaction and what the response has been from what we'll call neighbors?
Absolutely. So with those that we've engaged with within the community, they're actually pretty excited about the idea of having a best-in-class project brought to the community. Given that there's no residential abutting the site, that this is right on the commercial corridor, a lot of the other residential impacts that I think have come up in the past have not been a concern. So those issues that we addressed early on have given them the support, which is why, we don't see a lot of people, I think, here today resisting the project. But we really worked very early on to bring the community in and say, what's important to you? Right? What was important to them? We want to have an ability to have retail where it's a full 18 hours. You can come get a coffee, have a lunch, have a dinner. What we've found through the marketing process in sharing with retailers the quality of project we're building is it's bringing a very high quality set of retailers from other parts of our market that typically wouldn't look at Lake Mary. But now, given the quality of the project that's coming, plus the highway infrastructure, it's really interesting what we've heard from some of the high-end restaurant retailers is that the location with the new highway, because they think not just in terms of mile rings, like 135 mile, they think in terms of drive time. So now this new highway infrastructure package is improving drive times from Sorrento to Apopka to even parts of UCF in a 20 to 25-minute drive. So by us looking at creating the multifamily best-in-class destination and activating that with retail, lifestyle retail, this becomes a destination. And again, where families can come, park their car, rent a bike, hit the trail, get a coffee. So programming with green space, programming with adequate parking is something that we've been very focused on through our pursuit.
Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
All right, if we have any questions for you in a bit, we'll call you back up.
Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. Ms. Beach, are there any public comment forms?
Just one. Gray Wilson.
Mr. Wilson, welcome. State your name and address for the record, please.
Gray Wilson, 5044 Shoreline Circle, Sanford, Florida. I don't have really a position on this project at all. It is good to hear about the references to trails and what those have brought to the community. At the Planning and Zoning meeting, I don't know if you all had a chance to review some of the comments, and I'm not sure if they were carried forward. I was kind of surprised. One of the items, we're moving into the area of future visioning. Last year, this commission sent forth out their staff to go out and gather that information and look ahead. This is a project that's going to be around during that vision. It's an early project. And one of the items that was brought up, I brought it up at the Planning and Zoning, one of the commissioners there talked about it, is EV parking and individual spaces for these units. I'd like to have this particular project have, in the construction phase, from the individual units in their circuit breaker box, at least the wiring to an EV outlet. We're looking in the future for EV cars. I think 2030, a lot of the major makers of vehicles are only going to be making EVs. And they're going to be missing out that particular future owners here. They're not going to have a place to necessarily plug in. And I think at this particular stage or some particular stage, you'll work with the developer. They're talking about the future and these wonderful things. I think it would be apropos to include that, to have it so it's, they're very easy. I won't claim I'm an expert, but I have owned EV vehicles since 2014. I've moved 4 times. They're pretty easy to put in. You just have in your circuit breaker box space for a 50 amp, and then you just do the pre-wiring, and then that way each individual owner would be responsible for their own electric bill. So I think that would be a worthwhile discussion either here or with staff, and I think in the future that may be something this board might have discussions with for future development if we're looking for 2045 and staying with what's coming down the road with this sort of technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any other public comment? No? Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board on this item that maybe hasn't had an opportunity to fill out a form yet? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Anything that the applicant would like to say, address from public comment, any wrap-up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to ask Matt to respond on the EV component, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
So, very valid point, Mr. Wilson, and something we've done across our developments. So we have about 30 assets that are across the country, and so we've been transitioning our office buildings, even existing ones, to add EV. Our particular project in downtown, we did the same thing, is seeing where those trends are and really meeting the consumers. We think it's an important part to integrate those, to integrate EV into all of our projects. Even though it's existing, we're adding them to our site. But I think it's also important to note that this is the type of feedback we want to get from the community, because while this project is owned by a handful of folks, us and Max, this is really a community project. So we'll continue after today to maintain that line of communication to make sure that we're addressing and identifying the tenant or the community concerns and making sure we're building what the community wants to see.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right. Commissioners, any other questions for staff or the applicant or?
So just a question.
Sure.
Does the EV reference need to be in the development order now, or does that come later?
Rebecca, would you like to?
She's coming from the back in the white jacket.
Good afternoon. For the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director. If the board wishes to require that, it should be included within the development order now. With the proposed land development code changes for multifamily, we are proposing, it begins at 50 required parking spaces, but 2% installed for EV and then 20% EV capable. So we could mirror that same requirement within the development order.
I thought that's what I heard you saying. So I would just ask a response to that. I would be prepared to make a motion to include that in the DO.
Yes, Commissioner, yes, we would accept that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No. Anyone like to make a motion at this point?
I'd be happy to. I move to adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from plan development to plan development, and adopt an ordinance enacting a rezone from PD to PD, and approve the associated development order as amended in this meeting, and master development plan for approximately 12.2 acres located on the west side of International Parkway, approximately 1/2 mile north of CR 46A.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Well, I'll pass the gavel to second so we can have some discussion because I think it's appropriate.
I'll take the gavel.
All right. Then you can ask other commissioners if you'd like to have a discussion or
Further discussion?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. And I've had meetings with Matt and Chris and others, and I've expressed a number of concerns. And quite frankly, this property began as a HIP TI. When I first got here as a commissioner, this was almost sacrosanct to the commission that was then there, in that this was a area that, and I don't want to speak for Commissioner Delory because he was part of it.
Please do not.
I won't. I'm not, I'm not, but I'm just saying that they were concerned a great deal about maintaining a commercial area for, and office area for the county. Now, circumstances change, And there has been changes in the market over the course of time, and it is reflected from time to time of some PDs that have come in and have changed the zoning to include very high-density commercial, up to 50 units an acre. And this, again, is another example of the market expressing the need for apartments at a very high density. Now, in my opinion, and it's not just opinion, it has been fact over the years, circumstances change in the real estate market. Today, the soup du jour is apartments. Tomorrow, it may be office buildings. We've gone through a pandemic. Things are shifting, things are changing. The importance, however, is that we still maintain enough space for quality commercial to maintain a balance of commercial and residential. Now, that's a bigger picture view, and I think that this would take another very large piece of the pie and shift it forevermore to residential, multifamily, high density. Now, I heard a lot of talk about retail and people coming to have a cup of coffee and renting bikes. There's nothing in this project that's planning that in the near future. This is all, let's be honest, this is all 390, it says here, they're saying 380, multi-family units with a 1.84 or 1.48 or 49, I can't read it, I'm trying my best, but 1.5 acres being put in for retail, restaurant, seating, future. But just like other pieces of this property, could come back and ask for multifamily again. But let's just assume that in the future that that's going to be a 1.5 acres of retail. That's not what we're looking at today. We're looking at a 380 to 390 unit apartment complex. The 1.48 is an FAR of 1, so essentially they could put in 64,500 square feet of commercial, in addition to the 380 units on 4.47 acres. There's a little distinction here that they're talking about a total of 56, I think, is what we just received or recently, 56 units an acre, which is still higher than the 50 that the HIP TI would request. But the fact of the matter is, the property that has already been built at 6.25 acres allows 290 units, or 46.4 units per acre. They're adding that to the 4.47 and saying it's only 56 units or 65 units per acre. What it really is, though, if you went 4.47 unit acres in 380 units, it's 85 units per acre. 85 units per acre. In a PD, which essentially I see, and we've all talked about this time and time again, I see absolutely no negotiations of things for us on our side. Mr. Wills asked for EV today, and that's the only thing that I think that actually is out of the ordinary. To put an area that I think, when we are struggling hard to find obtainable housing in an area that is conducive to this, with shops and schools and work in the area. I think that we have to be better negotiators as to what we ask for when we're giving, because the only reason we're asking for PD here is because they can get the high density and they can get commercial. And for those reasons, I just cannot accept this project as, oh, and we're going to do retail and you can get a cup of coffee and this and that. No, this is 380 units on 4.487 acres, which again is 85 units an acre. And again, we, on this PD, I don't see anything that we're getting for that other than them getting more density.
Yes, please. So I would say we're getting not a vacant field anymore and a blocked view with a really nice development so that people don't have to look at the parking garage anymore. That would be what I would say we're getting just at the base. But from my perspective, density is exactly what we want in that corridor. We've talked repeatedly about if we're going to preserve the rural boundary, the density has to go somewhere. It's like the water in a balloon. And I've watched this project from its inception. I was actually a staff member here. I was the District 5 Commission aide when I first met the property owner and have watched the iterations, and I will tell you that there was a lot of discussion very early on. This was going to be an incredibly dense project. This is minor compared to what the original project was. I'm sure Commissioner Delary remembers that. I feel like we need to look at this area as a corridor. We've talked about that, I think, with staff and some of our land development code discussions, that especially with HIP-TI, high intensity planned. It's in the name of the zoning. Not every parcel is going to be able to pencil out with the same percentages and allocations of all of the mix of things because of the size of what the property may be. It may be that we should, and we're not now, but maybe we should be looking at this more as a corridor type mix than a parcel by parcel mix. I think you have to look at what's coming across the other side of International Parkway. There's a whole other piece of property that is going to be developed, and I understand is being looked at very heavily to help finish that corridor out. It is, it's unfortunate that we would look at wanting to try to, let's make a deal. Who wants to trade this rubber band for this pen? Who's got it? When we're talking about a piece of fallow land that has been vacant for so long in such a beautiful section of this county, and to have an opportunity to have a developer come in and create something that, frankly, let's be honest, our regulars aren't here today. My inbox has not been filled with emails from our regulars. I'm hearing from the applicant that he has talked with them and they are supportive of this project. Even Mr. Wilson, who was here talking about the importance of electric vehicle stub outs, said, I don't have a position on this project. So I think something that is with a staff recommendation. And so while I'm continuing to think out loud, I'm going to ask Rebecca if she doesn't mind to come down, because I think it's very telling that our staff has recommended approval of this particular item, and I understand, Commissioner Constantine has made it very clear that he doesn't like it the way that it is. I don't know what he would like, but why is it that you and your team are supporting approval of this project?
So staff is recommending approval in this case because the future land use of the property is actually planned development. It's not HIP-TI, so it doesn't have the limitations of the square footage for residential versus non-residential. And as you stated, it is a corridor that has infrastructure. It's within our core area of the county, so we do want our population growth to be accommodated in that area.
Commissioner Constantine?
I'm not, please, I've talked with the developer. I think that they have all the best intentions. I do. I understand that. However, I do believe that we, right now, as a county, we're looking at more apartments in this area when we we have no assurances, although it will be zoned for the commercial, we have no assurances that will ever happen. And we've seen this before, where everybody builds the multifamily first and then assures us that the residential or the commercial is going to come down the pike. But in this area, I see a perfect, if we're going to give this type of density, this is a perfect example of where we can look at having obtainable housing for people in our community that need it. So, again, this is something that we can do, part of PD, we can negotiate on this, and I think that is extremely important that we talk about finding opportunities for us to look where it's needed for those firemen, policemen, those school teachers, those nurses that can't find housing in Central and Seminole County. And this is where this is perfect for that. And if we're going to give density of this level, and again, this is not the same as the one next to it. They've included it to make it look like it's less dense, but the one next to it is, and that's nice that we're going to block a parking lot, but that's not a reason to give them density of 85 units an acre. It's nice, but it's not a reason. The previous one next to it is 46.4, well before we had, it was back in 16, 15, well before we had real problems with workforce housing. If this type of density is going to be approved, I think that we need to we need to back our words with action. And our words have been constant that we need to find more examples for this, for our working people. And this, I think, is a perfect example of where we could get an opportunity. If the density is going to happen, then a certain percentage can be used for that.
So, Commissioner Constantine, did you make that request of the developer during your briefing?
Yes.
And what was the outcome of that?
Promises.
Would you like to address that?
But did not want to put it into the development order.
So I'll give you a minute, and then let's hear from Commissioner Delary first, because you requested, and then I'll have you come back up.
International Parkway was originally intended to be HIP-TI to go after certain types of industry. That way we can compete with our neighbors to the south, Orange County. It's perfectly located, parallels I-4. You see a lot of big office buildings. I don't need to draw you a picture. It's quite obvious why HIP-TI is so very important to this county. If you want to grow your workforce, if you want to bring in high-paying jobs, if you want to bring in the right type of hotels, the right mixture, you want some type of HIP-TI. HIP-TI also allows you to do some type of percentage when it comes to breaking it up with some type of housing. When this was HIP-TI and then it went to PD, the reason why it went to PD was because of the property next door. Property next door, and it basically said is the rationalization of the amendment of 2016 was partially based on the approval and entitlement of Piedmont Town Park Commons PD on the east side of International Parkway. Staff found that the 2016 amendment of the east side of International Parkway, HIP-TI to PD, would be evaluated in tandem with the Piedmont Town Park, since it contains non-residential use consistent with retail, office space, hotel space. Staff recommended it be moved forward to PD, and it would support it. So it went from HIP-TI to PD. Now we're going away, and even though it's still going to be PD, we're going more and more apartments. Once this goes apartments, which it's going to go, I can see that. Now Piedmont's going to come back and ask for the same thing. So what's going to happen with all of International Parkway, eventually, instead of being HIP TI, that's going to be the catalyst for growth for jobs, it's now going to be apartment row. And I see no evidence here today presented to us that tells us that we need to have more apartments. I would like to have more dialogue on that, because all of International Parkway in this area is turning into apartments, and that's my issue.
So I would ask that you come back up, and while you're on your way back up, I will just give you a couple of thoughts. Mr. Sullivan? I thought you were standing up. So I would point out that along International Parkway, in addition to the apartments that are already there, that we have a considerable amount of empty commercial space. And as leases are coming up, those employers that used to fill those spaces are releasing smaller spaces. We just did it ourselves. The work-from-home phenomena is not going away. I know as employers we'd all like to think it is, but it is not. And so I don't anticipate that the rebound of commercial space like that is going to happen anytime soon. I would tell you that I feel about apartments the same way you all do, but that ship sailed when you went PD originally. And so I would happily trade in the entranceway to this area of our community, a 200-key hotel that's limited service only, to something that actually puts people in houses. Affordability of housing is highly driven by supply and demand. And so we can all say we don't like apartments, but until people have places to live, the prices on homes does not start to level off. And the folks moving in are not coming any slower. With that, I will ask you to address the specific requests that Commissioner Constantine made and your willingness to.
Yes, thank you. And if I certainly will get to that, and wanted to kind of respond, and maybe Matt can help respond to part of what we heard from Commissioners Constantine and Talari. So just a couple points. I think some, and maybe some clarifications here. First of all, just in terms of project benefits, I understand it's good, certainly always a good question. We talked about blocking the view of the garage. Understand that's is what it is, but it did matter to the neighbors. So I just want to point that out. Secondly, and I think Doug mentioned this in his kind of opening comments, and we didn't really show you a graphic on it, but we spent several weeks working with the fire folks on a access road to the north there. That's an additional benefit that would respond to an existing need. So wanted to point that out. Third, and I think perhaps pretty significant, because we didn't say this, so there's no way that it would have been made this clear before, but as I was talking with Matt while we were listening to the comments, there's an intent here to put the retail in on the first floor. So it's not, I know I've seen projects before where it's like, hey, we're going to do this particular use A first, and then there's no timetable with respect to when the second use would come in. But there's an intent here that retail would come in at the inception. So I wanted to kind of point that out. A couple other points, and Commissioner Hare said this very well, but when you look at this, we really truly look at this as a win-win opportunity, particularly when you compare it with what the entitlements already allow today with the limited service hotel, the 15,000 square feet of restaurant. There's a lot of phone calls that I know Matt and his team field about an extended stay going there, maybe some fast food, stuff that we don't think is the best use for this. This is a better vision. I think it's a win-win for the county as well to put that, particularly at the entrance of a commercial corridor like this that's highly visible. So we think there's a lot of benefits here associated with this when you think about it from that standpoint. So I wanted to point that out. In terms of looking, and Commissioner Delary, this goes to your comment about wanting to see some more evidence for additional apartments, we could certainly look into that further, perhaps if it's appropriate, come back with some information in that regard. So I wanted to kind of note that. And then lastly, and I'll have Matt come up and talk on the idea of the workforce component, because I took that down in my notes here as well, because I know there's an intent here, and Matt can talk more about the price point. It would be a market rate deal, but there's an idea of making it more for a certain percentage in kind of the attainable category, so it's not necessarily just a typical market rate only type of concept. So Matt, you want to maybe add some detail to that?
Yeah, sure. So after our meeting Friday afternoon, we worked diligently through the weekend to pull the material that dictated what average median income was and what the various thresholds are. So we're evaluating those, and given that the AMI in this market is $87,000 or $85,700, which given our market rents are under 30% of our or under 30% of that person's income. So in the affordable and the attainable category. So, you know, look, at the end of the day, this is the county's decision. And if the decision is that the preference is to stick to the existing entitlements and bring in and meet the market where it is with an extended stay hotel and the fast food drive-throughs, there is an economic outcome that is satisfactory to us and our partners. We wrap this up and we close it out. As I drive by this site for the next 25 years, it would pain me to think that that was what the community wanted. And when you say, Mr. Constantine, or Commissioner Constantine, that you want to see more affordability, I have to agree with Commissioner Herr that more supply is ultimately going to support reduced pricing. So that's what I have to say on that. Oh yeah, and if we want to put into the development order first floor retail on the north side, we're happy to do that, because I've shared a lot of those plans, and you know, what we are looking at in terms of allure is to really create a boulevard experience to where it really connects the community. If you look at the plans that we've designed, the amenity deck is actually run onto the right-hand side of Allure Parkway. Just next to that, we have a breezeway that accesses the common courtyard. Next to that, we have retail. And then within the parking garage, we did reserve about 1,000 square feet to have a bike rental stop, because traditionally that's not very marketable space to other retailers. And we do think it's important to activate the site. It was one of the things that the community felt was very important, is really having a pickup drop-off destination where you could rent a bike, go on the trail, walk around the water features, have a coffee. So, thank you.
Any further comments, commissioners? Yes.
I would just like to thank you genuinely for the work that you're doing, because I think you are trying to bring a quality product, trying to certainly bring a piece of property that has a long and rich history in this community to something that would really, I think, be appreciated. And a serious, not so serious question for our team. With it currently having the entitlements on it of PD, but it's not, it was, where are we with the ability to farm pigs? Could the owner go back and farm pigs again? I'm getting the head shake no. Darn. All right. Well, that was my backup for you.
Yeah, which is what the site was for many years.
Exactly.
Right.
Well,
So-
and I would tell you, I'll pick up on your serious but not serious. What I am hearing from the District 5 community in this general vicinity is that if we are going to put multifamily housing in places, this is a place for it. I would rather do high density on a lot that's already cleared, that is at the intersection of multiple highways, that doesn't back up to a housing subdivision, that doesn't encroach upon traffic in other areas of the county, that brings a retail opportunity that can feed the commercial opportunities that are in the empty space that already exist in the commercial, because when you go in and you look at office space, you're looking at how far away do my employees have to drive for lunch? Can they have any amenity that makes them feel good while they're at work? It's a much bigger deal now. Those of us that brought our lunch in a lunch box are old school. That's not how it works anymore. So I look at this as being much more in line with what we want. I would be heartbroken in District 5 if we end up with that corridor being fast food entrances. And that's the entitlement, and that's where this is headed. So an extended stay hotel and 2 or 3 fast food drive-throughs there is not what any of the community wants. And I think that's why we don't have the folks here asking to speak for 3 minutes and saying, please stop this. I think it's why we didn't have it at P&Z. I'll also go on the record and say that I realize this is a political hot potato. We have a community that has decided that apartments are the devil's hand. And that is very unfortunate. And I realize that 3 of us up here are going to stand for re-election and that I might regret saying this, but I will always do what I think is right before I cater to politics.
Commissioner, I think I'm doing what's right. And what's right to me is not that we put strictly high-density apartments in that area. If you look at the zoning board, it was 4-2, and there was a great deal of controversy about this particular project, and a lot of folks who, and you say the what did you call them? The people that are here?
The regulars?
The regulars. It's not just the regulars. They may be the tip of the spear, so to speak, of the folks that have concerns. I think Matt and his development community would do a great job. I just think that he's asking for far too much density, far too much multifamily in the beginning, retail later. Nice that you want to put the.
That's not what he said.
Nice that he wanted to put the first floor retail, but still that's very insignificant amount to the bigger picture of this. And also, it was wonderful, Matt, that you were willing to talk about attainable. And that is really nice, but how many times have people come in and said, and we're going to try to do this, and this, and then 6 weeks later we have a empty lot that has been totally clear cut. And I'm just using one example. I know that there's not a lot of trees on this. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the promises made, promises not kept. And I think that there is an opportunity here, asking for PD, that we are able to get some sort of concessions for density. And that's what I am trying to do for the citizens of Seminole County. I don't think that apartments are the boogeyman, if you will, of development. I think that there's a place for them. Usually it's in, community cities. I'm sorry, cities that have infrastructure. You'd think I'm laughing, but
And you've got
you're
$500
laughing at me.
million of highway infrastructure 100 yards from this project.
Which was not intended, because I've been part of that for a long time, was not intended to fill up more and more apartments along the way and more high density
So I
along the way.
recognize as well.
In fact, it was supposed to keep as being able to not be able to put so much intensity and density along the Wekiva Parkway. I didn't say I was against the idea of your project. I'm against the density, and I'm against the fact that we're not looking at any attainable housing at this time.
Madam Chair, all I was going to say was that I know a couple of comments have been made here about playing politics and about playing to certain groups. This property was supposed to be HIP TI. That's the reason why the International Parkway was originally built. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That was an investment by this county. We actually did a study talking about how to get that investment back and what that would be when, I believe it was the City of Lake Mary annexed a bunch of it and was changing some of HIP TI into apartments. And there was a whole discussion that we had, and HIP TI is extremely important to us, just like industrial zoning is very important to us. We keep on whittling it away to the point where, why did we build International Parkway? That was the investment. We switched it to do PD to give more latitude, to allow some of this to be complementary, but now it's just that slippery slope that everything just like, well, today the market's driven. We're playing the short game here today. We're not playing the long game. International Parkway is supposed to be the long game. You know, once this goes all apartments, I'm sure all the rest of it will. And I'd like to have discussions about how much apartments do we need? Where do they need to be? That's the discussion that we should be having and we should also be having the discussion about HIP TI and what's that investment that we invested of the citizens' money, about how that should be looked at for the future.
Commissioner Lockhart?
A couple of things. The attorney just whispered in my ear that if we turn to page 697, there's an equivalency matrix for the density. So it's actually not an increase in density or intensity from what was originally granted. It's just changing it.
697, you said?
697.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And we may want to have staff address that. I don't know if that, no.
Yes, Madam Chair, Doug Robinson, Development Services. There is an increase in the density for the multifamily development. The intensity, the floor area ratio is not changed. The
Right.
square footage of other uses, the retail at 40,000 square feet and the restaurant at 15,000 square feet are still proposed. So the density is increasing for the housing.
But the overall.
Yeah, no, that matrix has to do with if they decide to do less apartments, could be equivalent in terms of if they decide to still want to do office space or a hotel, that would allow them to convert a number of those units to a square footage equivalent. And I may let the applicant chime in on that too. That might be a better way to describe that than what I just said. But the idea is that they could exchange some of the multifamily units for some of the hotel use, maybe lesser hotel, and also lesser office square footage.
Okay. Thank you. Is there someone from the team who can address that as well? And then I have another question.
Yes, I'll ask Derek Ramsberg with Kimley Horn. He's a little bit better versed on the equivalency matrix, so.
Hello, hello, Commissioners. Derek Ramsberg here. So yes, overall, the density will not increase as far as the trip matrix and everything's concerned. We're actually looking at more of a decrease. If we go more multifamily, it would actually decrease the amount of density we have because the hotel and restaurant are a lot more substantial as far as that's concerned. So the overall project will decrease with density. And the trip equivalency matrix is really there to kind of make sure that we stay in line with that. So we'll have to go through that as far as final development plan approval and all that.
So I appreciate that immensely. I want to make sure that and the Vice Chair still has the gavel, so I just want to make sure that I'm clear on where we are with the discussion. The retail is planned for the first floor to be done concurrently with the multifamily, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that in the development order?
No.
Okay.
No, it's currently not written that way, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I'm making a list in my head of things that I've heard that were concerns, that maybe if they were added to the development order and you were planning to do them anyway, then maybe we'd be making some movement. So that would be a potential possibility in my mind. I've also heard that there's the intention of attainable housing. Don't know if there's anything in relationship to a percentage of units being related to attainable that you're considering in your mind as you're listening to this or not. Also want to see if there's anything else from my colleagues, because that's all I'm hearing, is a portion of, and HIP TI, the ship has sailed. Like, I agree, we need to have a conversation about that, but this is not HIP TI anymore. And the conversation from P&Z, I think the reason it was 4-2 is because there were two people who were confused. I think there was a lack of fundamental understanding of the situation with the focus on HIP TI. So I don't want to repeat that here on this dais. I don't want to perpetuate the misunderstanding. So it's PD. You have entitlements right now for PD to do the extended stay hotel, types of fast casual or fast food dining, and various and sundry other maybe less palatable type things. Am I correct?
That's our understanding, yes.
Okay. So other than adding the retail component to be concurrent with the build-out of the residential and a portion being attainable housing, is there anything else that my colleagues would find, like, is there going to be another objection if they work those into the DO, or would that satisfy the concerns?
Gentlemen?
Again, I have said that I felt that it was too many and not enough for attainable housing. I don't think that they're prepared right now. Mr. Sullivan, you can change my mind, or you can tell me different, to put in to the development order that they would have attainable housing, and at what, at what percentage and at what price, because $87,000, which I heard, is not the typical salary for a school teacher or others. So, the fact of the matter is that are we willing to put that into the development order at this time?
Good, fair question. I think what I would say is, I want to first start by saying this. Everything that we've said here at this podium today, we stand behind. I want to make sure I'm 100% clear on that. But to your point, Commissioner Constantine, it's a little challenging to sort of draft on the fly here with how we sort of may be able to incorporate that in there, to your point, and to be realistic. So, additionally, as the chair mentioned, writing something in about the first floor retail, which we would also be willing to do, we start getting a little bit lengthy with what the changes we're making. So in light of that, it might make the most sense just to continue this if we could, come back, build some of that stuff in, maybe give us an opportunity to address some of what we heard today, and come back to you. That would be my suggestion. And I think where all of us would that be our preference, frankly, at this point. So
I'll ask the county attorney for guidance. We have a motion and a second on the floor and an ask for a continuance.
If the maker of the motion wants to withdraw the motion, then there
Maker of the
could be another
motion will
motion.
withdraw the motion. Seconder concurs.
So do I need to make a motion that this be continued?
Yes, there's been a request.
Before we make that motion, I just want to be clear, that this is a true intent to come back with, to be able to put into the development order, because you said you stand by what you said today, that true intent of coming back where there was going to be concurrently retail as well as attainable housing in this, because if it comes back before we have someone else, then it becomes a 3-2 vote. That's not being genuous, or that's being ingenuous. And I really think that this is important that we do this. And if this is what they want to do, I'm willing to go ahead with a continuance to get those things into this development order. That's what's important to me.
So is that your motion?
That we continue it with them coming back, putting in the development order, both retail concurrent with the development, as well as that there was some portion, and I can't speak to it. I hope that they're being genuine about it, but that they want to have real meaningful, but a portion of it being attainable housing. Yes.
In addition to what was already said with regard to the electric.
And the electric, and if you want to, and the right of way for the fire station.
So that's already there.
So the motion was
that's a
just
motion. to continue it with
But I don't
some
think you can
guidance.
continue it with all of the
With
caveats.
guidance coming back with those things,
Can you
yes.
continue it with the caveats?
It's being continued to, the intent is that those items will be addressed, but the motion is to continue it. And also, you may want to put in a time and date certain, so we don't have to re-advertise.
Quite frankly, I don't think we can, Paul. I mean, they've got things that they've got to go back. I understand that. This is development. We can't sit there and expect them to come back in a month or so. I mean, if it's because you don't want to have to re-advertise it, is that what you're suggesting?
Right, if it's a time and date certain, then it's just continued and it picks up where we left off. If it's just continued to sometime in the future, then it would be a new fully advertised hearing.
Okay, then I'm...
Time and date certain,
Time and
gentlemen?
date, what...
And maybe we do it, more than 30 days, maybe in August or something like that would be more appropriate.
We
Okay.
don't have any public hearings in July, so it would have to be
Great,
August.
okay. Yeah, okay.
So would that be August 8th?
I would do the second meeting in August.
Second meeting in August is August 22nd. So time and date certain, so the motion is to continue it, time and date certain, to August 22nd, and there was some guidance provided in the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second, but the motion is just to continue to the time and date certain.
Time and date certain.
With direction given? You do not want to put that in there?
The attorney just opined that the motion is to continue. You can certainly tell them what your expectations are, but the motion is not allowed to have caveats with it to continue. So if your motion's to continue, I'm seconding that.
And then I withdraw the motion.
Call what motion?
The continuance motion.
Okay, just wanted to know what you're saying. So you are continuing it then, correct?
I am, no, if I cannot put in direction, I am not going to put the motion to continue.
That's what
So
I'm
he
asking.
has withdrawn his motion.
I'm withdrawing my motion.
Do I hear a motion to
So
continue?
I will make a motion to continue to time and date certain, August 22nd.
Do I hear a second? Well, I guess I will pass the gavel back to you to second it.
Fabulous, thank you so much. I take the gavel.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to continue to August 22nd, recognizing that the attorney has advised, as our parliamentarian, what a motion to continue can contain. Motion, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Any opposed?
Opposed?
Motion fails 2-2.
May I suggest if the applicant has any suggestions for potential conditions of the continuance that they would be willing to state for the record?
Yeah, I thank you, and I certainly would, and I did before. I can't control what can be incorporated in the motion, but I can tell you, Commissioner Constantine, I'm not going to stand up before you on August 22nd and not have address those in some fashion. So I definitely say that on the record here.
Madam Chair, and I appreciate that, and that's what I was trying to do, to help.
Right.
However, again, our attorney is saying that we can't do that. And
If they are voluntarily
if they're
offered-
voluntarily, but just as guidance, or that they will be put in the development order.
Yeah, we will come back with something in the development order on those three items that I had notes on. The attainable component, the first floor retail, and the EV.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if the applicant is going to make every due effort to make additional changes to this DO, and in good faith brings something that he believes that the board will support, I believe that we should allow the applicant the ability to do that.
And I agree.
Thank you.
Okay,
And I
that's what
agree.
you're telling us, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I agree.
I'll call the question.
There's no motion
There's no
right now.
motion.
Oh, my God.
So
I will make
he
a
needs to
motion. I will make a motion based on what was just given to me by Mr. Sullivan, that they will be brought back in the development order, that we continue this until the second meeting in August.
So that was a motion to continue. Is there a second?
There is a second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I apologize for the protracted way that we got to where we
got there, though.
got, but,
Thank you.
All due respect, I don't.
all right. All right, we did our district commissioner reports, my apologies. There's a county manager's report regarding charter review in Yarborough, and then Commissioner Delary has something because he missed the district reports earlier today that he would like to present to the board.
Madam Chair, before I tee it up,
No, we have a county manager's
sorry.
report first on the
Okay.
charter review in Yarborough, and
Correct.
then we'll pivot to that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Actually, just two brief items that I just wanted to update you all on, and you'll get more information. First is the Charter Review Committee. As you know, we're going to reconvene that this year. We are going to be doing a full presentation. Our County Attorney's Office, Desmond Morrell, as well as our Assistant County Manager, Melanie Kuntz, will be updating the board on August the 8th. And then you all will make appointments for the charter review on August the 22nd. I have asked both Desmond and Melanie to, over the next couple of weeks, to brief your offices on the timeline and actually what those appointments are, what they have to be, so you're well-versed and start thinking about the appointments. So when we make that presentation on August the 8th, and you'll have the timeline. It's a 15-member board. You will make 3 appointments per commissioner. I just want to have you have all that information before we get to August, so you have time to think about that. Our first meeting date will be in late September for the new Charter Review Committee, and then, as you know, as it goes throughout the year, and we want to have if there are any charter amendments, that those have to be completed or late spring, early summer, so they can be on the 2024 November ballot. So just want to let you know that is coming up for you, and we'll be contacting your office to set up individual meetings to brief you.
Thank you.
One question that I know will be asked, so kind of put this on the radar, is that one of the items is that someone from each city is to be appointed within the cities as well. And so if we have a commissioner that has multiple cities within their district, how do we navigate which one of us appoints someone from that city? That would just be some guidance I know we'll be asking for.
Sure, and we'll make sure you're briefed on that.
Great, thank you.
And then also, any other questions on charter review? And I know we talk Yarborough a lot up here, but I did want to just update you on the site visit. Last Wednesday, I believe it was the 21st, we had a budget work session at the time, but the Florida Forever staff came down, to about a group of 10 with our staff, with Richter and the crew, toured the site. They had a great visit. They actually even told us that this was a #1 priority, so that was from the staff, so I'm just, relaying that information. August, I believe, Rick, August 8th, right, is the next committee, Florida Forever. It's the first 11th. It's the 1st of August.
Beginning of August.
Huh?
Beginning of August.
Yeah, beginning of August. They have actually, or the Florida Forever Committee, the Art Committee, will be reviewing again. They've already contacted us. We didn't think it was until September, October, but they have moved it up to August. So just to keep you in the loop on that as well, that is positively moving forward. We keep optimistic on that. So just wanted to bring the board up to speed on what's happened within the last week.
That's great news.
Madam Chair, I did want, and I think that you received this letter.
Yes.
I did want you all to know that for the first time ever, the Thousand Friends of Florida actually endorsed a particular piece of property to be bought by Florida Forever, as opposed to just the general Florida Forever thing, using, of course, the scientific, but because of the immediacy of the potential of development, they thought that this was very important, and they wrote a letter in response to that.
That's great news. Could you circulate that to each of us?
Yes, I got a copy of it last week, so I'll send that over.
Yeah.
And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
County Attorney.
I just have one item that was brought to my attention by the clerk's office this morning on your consent agenda, item 16, which was for the approval of the final plat for the Cove Riverbend subdivision. Included in that was reference that there was an avigation easement that was included in the package. In the motion, impliedly, the avigation easement is being accepted by the county also, but it didn't specifically state that. So just want to clarify for the record that your motion to approve the plat also included acceptance of the avigation easement.
Do we have to make a specific motion to that?
That would be better if you don't mind.
I make that motion.
Second.
There's a motion by Constantine, second by her. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Absolutely. Commissioner Delary.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate you allowing me to do my district report now. I couldn't do it earlier due to a family situation. I had to leave the commission meeting for about an hour or so. I had to help my dad. But in that same vein, I have two quick items. One is I wanted to publicly thank Kendra Young. Kendra will be leaving my office soon. She's taking another position in the county. I think that, in my mind, it is a promotion, but it's not really deemed a promotion. And I say that because she'll be getting more responsibilities. I say that because she'll have she'll have more opportunities.
A better boss, let's just say it. She's going to have a better work environment. It's going to be awesome.
First of all, this is my report. And I think Kendra's done a phenomenal job serving the public. And I will also tell you that the public has told me many times on how much they appreciate her hard work. I also appreciate her hard work on many different levels. She's a phenomenal person to work with, and I say for because she was definitely a part of my team. She's just going down the hall. She's going to continue working for the public, and that's where her heart is. She has the aptitude to do a lot more, and I can see her advancing in that role, and the world is hers. Nothing happened between us, so please, I'm trying to dispel any innuendos as...
I'm just yanking your chain.
I know you're yanking my chain, but I think she's done a phenomenal job.
We all know how much she loves you, Bob.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure that people realize that she's done a phenomenal job. She's got a great opportunity, and I wish her all the best.
So do we.
And I know you all do too. That being said, I also had a community meeting last night on Lockwood Road. I've told you about the sanitary drain line that's underneath Lockwood Road. That's about 30 feet below grade. That's collapsed. We've had a series of meetings with a couple of the HOAs in that area. We had two last year. This is another one this year to give them the progress just so that they are fully transparent. I want to compliment Kim with Environmental Services with all the work that her community folks have done. Elsa's done a phenomenal job, and it just goes right down the line. I know that John Dredge has been involved in it a little bit because it involves ripping up a road. The fire department, the sheriff's department, the schools, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And I hear nothing but wonderful things from the community about how well everything is going. I have a little video. We did the video so people can actually see the work because it is basically, they're at the 25 feet below grade mark, and they have to extend the period of construction because of some dewatering issues, and this video will discuss that. Can we play the video, please?
We were remarked over and over and over how dry the dirt was, everything was going great, and then once we hit the 20-foot mark, groundwater began rushing in. What we've been doing literally is the last 2 weeks trying to control water. We're going to be adding a bunch of deep wells. Deep wells will literally go down 40, 50 feet, and we will be sucking water from underneath the pipe. This should take care of it. This has been a battle. It has pushed us back. We're probably about 4 weeks out from finishing at this point. We are very close. We are literally within 8 to 10 feet of seeing the top of the pipe. Groundwater is what stymied us at the moment. So basically, we're going to get these wells in next week. That should pull large amounts of fluid out of underneath this, and then we can get down to that 10 feet and begin pipe bursting.
I wanted to show that video because not only that gentleman is in charge of construction, he's also been helping the kids cross the road with their bicycles from time to time. It's quite interesting how everyone is working hand in hand. They say 4 weeks, but that's just adding 2 more weeks to the job because we have 2 more weeks to go. We wanted to be fully transparent with the community. I thought it'd be appropriate to show that to you all here today.
Well done, really well
So
done.
the staff's done a phenomenal job. That video's on their website. They have a website that's totally interactive. Everyone is not happy that the project has to be done, but they're happy with the contractor and all the work he's trying to do. And the staff, Kim Oldenburg and her team, Elsa, and everybody's doing a phenomenal job. Thank you. End of my report.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm glad we were able to come back this afternoon. Do we have any future agenda items? I don't think we had any requested.
No, ma'am.
Do we have anyone here from the public who wishes to speak, Ms. Beach? No public comment forms? Anyone here who wishes to address the board that neglected to fill out a comment form? All right, we will adjourn the meeting at 3 o'clock.